Joining me now, retired U.S. Army Major General William Enyart. Sir, thank you for your time this morning. What do you make of this attack in Moscow, and who is responsible? Ukraine again saying that they are not involved.
Well, good morning, Marni. There's certainly no one more likely than Ukraine, although we saw the attacks on the Russian province of Belgorod by Russian dissidents who are fighting with Ukraine. The denial by the Ukrainians of their involvement said they weren't directly involved. So you can take that as a bit of an open-ended denial that something less than a full denial.
So what are the larger ramifications of something like this at this stage in battle?
Well, I think this shows a remarkable resilience on the part of the Ukrainians. They've been on the defensive largely for the first year of the war. They were really on their back foot. And of course, the old maxim is that the best defense is a good offense. So we've now seen Ukraine or Ukrainian allies, if you will, attacking Russian provinces, as well as launching these drone attacks on Moscow itself. Now, there has also been some speculation that this could in fact be a false flag operation by Putin to claim that the Ukrainians are doing this. That would give him the opportunity either to fire several Russian generals and really revamp the Russian military, or potentially escalate the war in some other manner. But the fact that there were 8 drones rather than the 2 that struck Moscow last week, that'd be hard to cover up if you're launching 8 drones as compared to 2.
Where do things stand in the city of Bakhmut? Much destroyed. Does Ukraine still have a foothold there?
Well, the reports are that Russia has taken the corporate limits of this city, this small city of 70,000, formerly of 70,000 people, now with a couple dozen people maybe living there, other than troops. But the Ukrainians have made successful counterattacks both to the north and the south of Bakhmut. The interesting point here is that the Wagner group, headed by Yevgeny Prigozhin, Putin's so-called chef, has pulled out of there, and those positions have been taken over by the regular Russian army. It'll be interesting to see what Prigozhin does with these troops. They were really badly battered. They're large. They used to be primarily veterans of the Russian military, and now they're primarily composed of convicts from Russian prisons. So it'll be interesting to see. He says he's going to retrain them and regroup and rearm. If I were the Russian general staff, I'd sure be keeping an eye on those guys. Prigozhin has really been bad-mouthing the Russian general staff and the Russian defense minister.
What do you think the next stage of fighting looks like?
Well, I suspect that the Ukrainians are going to make a concerted effort to cut the Russian supply lines, the so-called land bridge from mainland Russia down to Crimea. That's certainly what I would do. They have been prepping that with artillery and missile launches against Mariupol and other cities that the Russians conquered. And it's really not that far for a well-equipped, well-armored force to break through to the Sea of Azov, which would cut that Russian supply line. And once they do that, then the Ukrainians could either turn to the left, go north, and come up around Bakhmut from the rear, or turn south to Crimea, either of which put the Russians in a bad position.
We've heard a lot about the Patriot missile system. What else does Ukraine need to be successful in a spring offensive?
Well, I think that in order to be successful in the spring offensive, they've been getting the armor. They need the delivery of that armor that they've been promised. Once they've gotten delivery of that, they're going to be in pretty good shape. And the ability to take air superiority, if not air supremacy. F-16s, but I think those are still months away. The Russians have certainly not been able to establish air superiority with the anti-air weapons that Ukraine has been provided. Another weapon they probably would like to have would be longer-range anti-ship missiles. if they had longer-range anti-ship missiles, they could further devastate the Russian Black Sea Fleet, which has been launching a lot of those drones and a lot of those missiles against Ukraine.
Thank you for watching. Go to newsnationnow.com to find NewsNation on your television provider. And don't forget to click the red subscribe button below to get more of NewsNation's fact-driven, unbiased coverage.